Hello, YouTubers. Welcome to Level-Headed News. This is your host, Brenda. I have two episodes for you this morning of news articles. There are 7 articles in this episode, and all the URLs, of course, are in the description of the video for your convenience. The first article I have for you is off of PamelaGeller.com, and it says, 3 people have been critically injured and several others less severely after a car mounted the pavement in Helsinki, Finland. The incident, which police say was not deliberate, took place outside a subway station in the eastern part of Finland's capital. Witnesses saw an Estonian registered silver Volvo estate driving at a speed before mounting the pavement and hitting several other cars before coming to a stop, reports the Finnish newspaper Ilta Sanomat. A police spokesman told the newspaper there is nothing presently to suggest the act was intentional and that the driver had been taken into custody. Approximately 10 emergency appliances, including fire engines and ambulances, attended the scene. An eyewitness told media some of those injured appeared to be in very bad condition. The crash comes amid heightened concerns in Europe over vehicles being used as an attack vector by Islamist killers. 2016 saw the Islamist attacks in Berlin Christmas market in December and the National Day attacks in Nice, France in July. Between the two attacks, 99 were killed. 2016 has also seen the trial of Boston Muslim Alan Rizvanik, who drove his car through a central shopping district of Graz, Austria in 2015, killing 4. Despite evidence to the contrary, the incident was widely reported as a traffic accident in Austrian media. So there you have that. The next one's off of BizPack Review, and it says, zero tolerance, Italy to take drastic action to rid migrants as U.S. mayors beg Obama to help ours stay. Italy is about to crack down on the flood of migrants who have been entering the country as American mayors are begging President Obama to protect refugees from Donald Trump. The European nation will look to deport the migrants and open new detention centers to hold some until they are removed, Rutgers reported. Franco Gabrielli, the head of Italy's Protezione Civile, or civil protection, sent a 2-page directive to all the country's police departments that called on them to take extraordinary action to protect Italy from the growing migratory pressure in an international context marked by instability and threats and control to control and remove irregular foreigners. The directive comes in the wake of Italian police shootings and killings. The Berlin Christmas market attacker Anis Amri near Milan last week. It's the first policy move of such measures by new Prime Minister Paolo Gentiloni since being elected and follows a record year of migrant arrivals, according to Rutgers. The previous Prime Minister, Matteo Renzi, refused to take such drastic actions and was voted out in favor of Gentiloni in December. Meanwhile, in America, U.S. mayors have penned a letter to President Obama to ask that he intercede on behalf of illegal immigrants, including refugees, to protect them from any actions President-elect Donald Trump might take when he is sworn in as president, according to Fox News. We urge that you continue your support for immigrant communities in the last few weeks of your presidency. Specifically, we suggest that your administration, number 1, continue support for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, the DACA recipients, and number 2, continue support for immigrants who have temporary protection status, TPS, the letter signed in part by hapless New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio and Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel, whose city is besieged by violent crime. First, we encourage you to undertake steps to support the over 740,000 DACA recipients in the U.S. DACA has tremendously benefited our communities by helping our residents thrive and contribute in a myriad of ways. For this reason, we are committed to advocating for the continuation of DACA in the next administration and for legislative relief for dreamers in Congress, it continued. In the meantime, we call upon your administration to accept early renewal applications for current DACA holders to extend temporary protections for them. In addition, we urge USCIS to commit to speedy processing of initial and renewal applications and urge your administration to implement additional privacy protections for DACA holders to reassure recipients that they will not be punished as a result of coming out of the shadows. The letter was signed by all Democrat mayors. In addition to de Blasio and Emanuel, it was joined by Los Angeles Eric Garcetti, James Kenney of Philadelphia, Pam Heminger from Capitol Hill, North Carolina, Allentown's Ed Pulaski, Stephanie Miner of Syracuse, New York, Isaiah Leggett of Montgomery County, Maryland, and San Francisco's Ed Lee. The next article I have for you is off of GOPthedailydose.com, and it says, try to enforce Sharia law on Florida family. And there is a video in this if you care to pull that up to take a look at it. And this is how the article reads. It says, Islam is not a religion of peace. Sure, some followers are peaceful, but the main idea behind the religion is converting or killing infidels, non-believers. They believe they are superior, believe the West is decadent, and the problem and wish to convert every last human being to Islam and Sharia. Sharia, in case you don't know, is an abomination. It's a throwback to the Dark Ages. Literally, it hasn't changed since the Dark Ages when the barbarianism ruled the world. To say Sharia is barbaric is an understatement. Its treatment of women is a true horror. We'll never understand. The refugees want Sharia here, and they are bringing it with them, as this video clearly shows. In the video below, you see are Muslims pointing a taser at an American family because they were offended that two girls were wearing bikinis in a swimming pool. They should learn to live in the U.S. or go back to their country because we don't need to change our ways to accommodate them. Muslims who want to live in America should learn the principle, if you're in Rome, do as Romans do. And the next article that I have for you is rather disturbing. We can get it to come up here. There we go. It says sonsoflibertymedia.com is who put this out. Ad shut down off of it. There we go. It says homosexual gang kidnaps a 3-year-old boy, brutally rapes him, and then murders the helpless child. A group of Muslim homosexuals in Afghanistan, Balkh region, kidnapped a 3-year-old child named Yumas and then killed him. It's a truly horrifying example of the decay into darkness that the world has plunged itself into, and also of the depraved mindset those who hate God are in. Local Afghan activists are righteously calling for the government to inflict severe punishment on the sodomites who did this. One activist named Malka said, Balak civil society activists have raised their voice to ask Afghanistan's judicial system to act seriously regarding the sexual abuse of the underage boy. Syed Mohammed Sami, another activist, exclaimed, unfortunately, such occurrences are the result of the fact that rule of law is fading away in our society. Such a situation means that any brutal human and those who are against the law in every hook and nook of the country commit illegal acts, and then there is no one to arrest them and send them behind bars. The activists are not even sure if the government is going to even punish those evil perpetrators, convincing Malala Yousafzai that it might be best that the people themselves conduct a citizen's arrest and apprehend the rapist, she said. We were against kangaroo courts in the past, but now I want to say that the local residents should arrest the perpetrators who raped the child and punish them before they reach the police and courts. Nadim Pakan, a 7-year-old boy who knew Yunus, expressed his shock at the rape and the murder of his helpless 3-year-old boy. I was at home when I heard the news. They killed Yunus. They should be punished severely. How did they do this? How did they rape and then kill a 3-year-old child? This is just another example of how deep depravity goes. It's not just in the Muslim world, and we would be hypocrites to think so. It's happening all over the U.S. and the Western world. Homosexuals in New Orleans kidnapped young boys, brought them into their homosexual areas, tortured them, sodomized them, and murdered them. I received this information from a colleague of ours, Jeremy Santos, who's one of the most fervent fighters against the sodomite agenda in America. While he was in southern Decadence, one of the biggest rallies in the U.S., he met with a number of local Christians in the French Quarter, and they informed him of several incidents in which this evil was taking place and being committed by sodomites. I interviewed Santos on the radio, the Roth Show, which I was covering, and then they have that video here if you want to pull it up to take a look at it. It says, look at the New Orleans police, who refused to investigate over 1,000 cases of rape and child molestation, including the case of a 3-year-old who was raped and given an STD. And this is happening in the city of trumpets, jazz music, gumbo, and stupid forms of dancing into which they get their debauched Mardi Gras. In Argentina, a 6-year-old boy was raped, and a local homosexual named Mario Tosola, who was the vice president of the sports club. The government is also steeped in corruption that the judges Horacio Piombo and Ramon Sal Largues, I guess that's how it's pronounced, gave the sodomite only 38 months because they believed that the victim may have enjoyed it. In Italy, the education system established a new program that will have boys wear dresses and girls dress as men. The Russians understand that the homosexual agenda will condition society to gradually and eventually be more accepting to pedophilia. This view is expressed in the video, which was released in Russia, showing that the real intention of a homosexual agenda is to adopt children to molest them. And there is a video here of that if you'd like to take a look at that. It says a sodomite from Arizona has been sentenced to 40 years for forcing his adopted son to take part in child pornography ring, as explained in this video. So there's another video there you can see. It says, moreover, we must keep in mind the realities of the new Common Core education program, which was designed by the National Governors Association and the Council of Chief State School Officers. Common Core has in its program a series of books that explicitly promote homosexuality, pedophilia, sadomasochism, and other deplorable, debacle, and demonic acts worthy of death, all of which have been accepted by secular and even religious schools. For example, Common Core has a version designed for Catholic schools called Common Core Catholic Identity Initiative, in which they have homosexual books for first graders. One Catholic school superintendent has admitted that 2 first-grade books about families, which contain pictures of sodomite couples, are included on the Common Core Catholic Identity Initiative website. The books were removed after much protest from parents. In the New York State Common Core program, students are required to read parts of a book, the title of which would soil this article, in which male genitals and sex acts are explicitly described. An English teacher in the Newburgh School District said at least 3 of the books listed on the module's curriculum contain passages using inappropriate language and visual imagery that most people would consider pornographic. Another book in the Common Core program contains graphic descriptions of rape, incest, sexual violence, and pedophilia. The demonic and blasphemous novel expresses sympathy for a pedophile who even describes his wicked acts as divinely inspired, saying, I work only through the Lord. He sometimes uses me to help people. One father stated his concern over the book, saying, my daughter will mix socially with her peers who have absorbed this book, even if she has not read it. How is she protected from that book's influence on her friends? Barbara Hansen, a former Sierra Vista elementary school teacher described one book to school officials as child pornography and stated, "We are bludgeoning their souls with this kind of material. It's debauchery, and it's just not worthy of our students." According to a report by Bonnie Ramthan, materials are described to groom the students into being sexually molested. Ramthan writes, grooming is the process by which predator desensitizes a young person to sexual contact. A predator is in a position of authority, such as a coach, teacher, or counselor, uses his position to befriend a child and eventually to abuse that child. One of the steps in grooming is to expose the young person to graphic sexual material, such as pornographic photos, stories, and movies. When a child is used to the idea that everyone does these sexual acts, the predator has his victim prepared and ready for molestation. Another book, in Common Core, describes homosexual rape and the use of a sex toy designed to be inserted into the rectum for the demonic and sadistic pleasure of the sodomite. In Scotland, a homosexual groomed two young 15-year-old men by getting them drunk and raping both of them. One of the youths, as a result, struggled with suicide. What was the sodomite's excuse? He said that growing up in a time when homosexuality was frowned upon skewed his understanding of normal behavior. He doesn't want us to blame homosexuality, but the suppression thereof. If we utterly abolished homosexuality and made it a capital crime, then we wouldn't see as many of these cases. Homosexual grooming gangs need to be arrested and punished. We have to prepare our minds and intellect for this spiritual war we are in. This is why I made a 2-disc DVD series on teaching the warring spirit of the Christian faith. And there's a link that you can click on to get a hold of that 2-disc DVD series. The next article that I have for you is off of the westernjournalism.com, and it says, number of food stamp recipients increased by 10.7 million under Obama. The number of food stamp recipients in the United States increased by a staggering 32% under President Obama, according to the latest statistics from the Department of Agriculture. In 2009, 33.5 million Americans received food stamp benefits. Nearly 8 years later, that number has increased by 10.7 million, amounting to 44.2 million food stamp recipients as of October 2016. The last month reported for fiscal year 2016, Breitbart News reported. The U.S. Census Bureau estimates that the U.S. population is 324.6 million. So the 44.2 million food stamp recipients represents 13.6% of the population, or nearly 1 out of every 7 Americans. Able-bodied adult food stamp recipients without dependents have been the fastest growing category of food stamp users under Obama, according to the Heritage Foundation Senior Research Fellow Robert Rector. In 2008, there were about 1 million ABAWDs. Now there's about 4.7 million. This is the most rapid growing part of the caseload, Rector told Breitbart News in January. ABAWDs are largely young adults who don't work or are working off the books and hiding that income. They're getting maximum of about $200 a month from food stamp program. Rector, whose report on the issue was published in February, contends that half of able-bodied food stamp recipients don't even spend their government benefits on food. What we found was 50% of the ABAWDs smoke cigarettes regularly, and those who do smoke are spending about $111 per month on cigarettes. That's about 2/3 of their thrifty food plan allotment, what they're supposed to spend on food, he said. All food stamp recipients receive up to $50.3 billion in benefits in 2009 when Obama took office. That number has increased to $66.6 billion. Able-bodied food stamp recipients reportedly cost taxpayers approximately $11 billion annually. Obama's legacy will include not only an increase in the number of Americans receiving food stamps, but a doubling of the federal debt from $9.96 trillion at the end of fiscal year 2008 to $19.95 trillion at the end of fiscal year 2016, according to usgovernmentspending.com. The U.S. home ownership rate is also the lowest it's been since 1965. 62.9% of the second quarter, or in the second quarter, according to the Census Bureau report. By most objective measurements, most Americans are not economically better off after 8 years of Obama's presidency. Obama, however, argues the contrary and uses his latest press conference earlier this month to remind voters of the good his administration has done. What the president-elect is going to be doing is going to be very different than what I was doing, and I think people will be able to compare and contrast and make judgments about what worked for the American people. And I hope that building off this progress we've made, that what the president-elect is proposing works, Obama told reporters. What I can say with confidence is that what we've done works. All I can prove, or that's all I can prove. I can show you where we were in 2008, and I could show you where we are now, and you can't argue that we are better off. We are. And there's comments underneath this. You might want to pull this one up and take a look at the comments on on that article. Wow. I fear he is very delusional. The next one we have here is off of conservativetribune.com. And it says, Congress looks to repeal Michelle Obama's school lunch rules. When the new Congress meets with Republican chief executive, no Obama regulation will remain untouched, and that even includes those that originated with Michelle. According to Politico, the House Freedom Caucus, a powerful group of Republican lawmakers in the lower chamber, is urging Congress to end First Lady Michelle Obama's hated school lunch program. A document released on the website of Representative Mark Meadows, Republican of North Carolina, called for a repeal of certain parts of the Healthy Hunger-Free Kids Act of 2010, the legislative bill that helped enshrine Michelle Obama's signature program into law. It's part of a wider initiative called released under the title First 100 Days, Rules, Regulations, and Executive Orders to Examine, Revoke, and Issue. The largest of the 5 school and center-based programs, the National School Lunch Program, fed about 30 million children each school day in 2014 and cost $12.7 billion, the report read. The rules are hallmarks of the Obama administration, but the kids aren't eating the food. Industries can't comply with the standards, and schools are wasting money. EAG News reported that since the restrictions on fat, calories, sodium, sugar, and other nutritional parameters were enacted in 2012, over 1.2 million students have stopped eating school lunches altogether. Furthermore, the bill's insistence on every student taking a fruit or vegetable, whether they intend to eat it or not, has created a massive amount of food waste from students simply throwing them away. And got something trying to play here, and I'm trying to shut her down. Okay, think I succeeded. It says, if that wasn't bad enough, check out these pictures of the lunches. Just make sure you aren't eating. And there's several pictures here, and this is absolutely disgusting. Holy smoke. It says, you know how Rachel Ray always says yummo? Whatever the anonym of that word is, that's what these lunches are. These lunches did have one advantage aspect to them. They taught our youngsters in a very corporal, practical way exactly what happens when bureaucrats start messing with your life. Now that they've served that purpose, it's time for Michelle's lunches to go. And the final article I have for you is off of BizPac Review, and it says, report, aggressively courting inauguration guest who would be a thumb in Obama's eye. There's no better way to redirect the relationship with a close ally than to extend an invitation to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to be on hand for President-elect Donald Trump's inauguration. In a move that would serve as thumb in the eye of President Barack Obama, given his recent anti-Israel actions. A source close to the transition told New York Post that Trump's advisors want to invite Bibi to the inauguration or set a meeting between the leaders beforehand. The day after his shocking win over Democratic rival Hillary Clinton, Trump invited the Israeli Prime Minister to meet with him at the first opportunity while speaking by telephone. A group led by Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, have been aggressively courting Netanyahu and want him to attend the January 20th festivities. There's a plan for Trump to meet with Netanyahu, the source said. They're talking all the time, and Netanyahu is talking about possibly going to the inauguration. So there you have that. Okay, well, that's all I have for you in this episode, but there'll be one more episode this morning. If you like what we're doing, give it a thumbs up. Share it around on your social media so everybody gets to hear the news. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Click that little bell beside the subscribe button and check that box so that you get the email alerts every time I turn a show loose on you. That way you stay informed on what's going on. We'll see you in the next episode.